They didn't just sing songs, they confessed real affairs, buried real diagnoses in a chorus, and turned real heartbreak into the biggest records radio has ever played. Some of these artists rewrote the rules of the charts so hard the record books had to be reprinted, and one of them did it while quietly hiding the truth about their own life from the whole world. Welcome back to R&BGROOVELore. I'm counting down 10 artists who didn't just dominate R&B, they built it. And today you're getting the real story behind the one song each of them will never be able to escape. Number 10, Boyz Any Men, End of the Road. Two men walked into a Philadelphia studio in the summer of 1992 with exactly one weekend to record a song neither of them wanted to give away. Songwriter and producer Babyface had written End of the Road with L.A. Reid and Daryl Simmons for the Eddie Murphy movie Boomerang, and Babyface liked his own demo so much he seriously considered keeping it for himself. He decided a group could take it further than a solo record ever would.
All those times at night when you just heard me and just ran.
That decision came with a brutal deadline. Boyz II Men were about to leave on tour the very next morning, so Babyface and L.A. Reid flew from Atlanta to Philly and recorded all 4 vocals in a single 3-hour session. Reid then pulled an all-nighter mixing the track just to make the movie's edit.
You just don't realize.
It paid off in a way nobody predicted. End of the Road spent 13 straight weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, smashing a record Elvis Presley had held since 1956. It won 2 Grammys, and it became the first of 3 separate Boyz II Men singles that would each go on to break the very record the one before it had just set. A rushed weekend session, a song its own writer almost kept for himself. That's how you accidentally build a chart dynasty. Number 9, TLC, Waterfalls. In 1994, Atlanta production trio Organized Noise and songwriter Marques Etheridge sat down to write something TLC had specifically asked for, a song that didn't just sound good, but actually meant something. Group member Lisa Left Eye Lopes wrote her own rap verse for it, and together they built 2 quiet, devastating stories inside one radio hit. A young man pulled into the drug trade, and a couple undone by the HIV and AIDS crisis that was still wrapped in stigma and silence. T-Boz later said plainly that they wanted people to think, not just dance, and that if the song stopped even one person from a fatal mistake, they'd done their job. Lopes backed that mission with her own body. She was known for wearing a condom pinned to her glasses on stage, turning her own face into a walking safe sex campaign. Waterfalls became the first #1 single to directly reference the AIDS epidemic in its lyrics, and studies afterward showed it genuinely raised teen awareness of HIV transmission. Its bittersweet postscript arrived in 2002, when Lopes died in a car accident in Honduras, and her family had her own rap lyrics from this very song engraved onto her casket. A pop song with a body count, a warning, and a eulogy, all folded into 3.5 minutes. That's Waterfalls. Number 8, Alicia Keys, Fallen. Before she was a 5-time Grammy winner, Alicia Keys was a teenager Columbia Records had signed at 16, and then completely mishandled, pairing her with producers who had nothing to do with her sound. She walked away from the label at 18, like a blooming flower that's trampled on, in her own words, and followed music executive Clive Davis to his brand new startup, J Records, a label with literally one prior release to its name. Keys wrote Fallen as a teenager, drawing on her first serious relationship and the exhausting, unconditional love she had for her own mother, who raised her alone in Hell's Kitchen. Davis believed in the song so much he personally wrote a letter to Oprah Winfrey, begging her to book an unknown 20-year-old on her show before the album had even dropped. Oprah said yes. Keys played Fallin' live, and pre-orders for Songs in a Minor doubled that same night. The album debuted at number 1, Fallin', won 3 Grammys, including Song of the Year, and Keys tied Lauryn Hill's record for the most Grammy wins by a woman in a single night. One rejected teenager, one desperate label bet, one letter to Oprah, and a career that's still running 25 years later. Number 7. Luther Vandross. Never Too Much. Years before Luther Vandross had a single hit to his name, David Bowie overheard him quietly singing backup vocals in a Philadelphia studio during the Young Americans sessions in 1974, and was floored. Bowie pulled him into the booth, let him help arrange the record, and even rewrote one of Vandross's own unreleased songs, Funky Music, into the Bowie classic Fascination. For years after that, Vandross stayed invisible on purpose. A jingle singer for Juicy Fruit and KFC by day, a background vocalist for Chic, Bette Midler, and Diana Ross by night. It was soul legend Roberta Flack who finally pushed him out of the shadows, telling him flatly that he'd gotten too comfortable singing oohs and ahs in the background and needed to cut his own record. When Vandross finally recorded Never Too Much in 1981, another legend showed up to help for free. Cissy Houston, Whitney's own mother, sang backup on his debut single, No Charge, Just Belief in the Voice. The song shot straight to number 1 on the R&B chart and launched a nearly 2-decade streak of platinum albums. A ghostwriter and a ghost singer for over a decade, until 2 women, Roberta Flack and Cissy Houston, physically pushed him into the spotlight himself. Number 6. Mary J. Blige, Real Love. In the late 1980s, an 18-year-old high school dropout from Yonkers became the first female act ever signed to Andre Harrell's Uptown Records, and was handed off to an unproven 20-something intern-turned-producer named Sean Combs, the man the world would later know as Puff Daddy or Diddy. Combs had one radical idea: take raw hip-hop beats and layer real R&B vocals directly on top of them. No compromise. Real Love became the proof of concept. Producers Corey Rooney and Mark Morales built the track around a sped-up drum break from Audio 2's Top Billin', and right before release, one of them actually wanted to strip the sample out entirely to avoid paying publishing. Combs refused, insisting the sample was the sound, and he was right. Real Love hit number 7 on the Hot 100, went gold, and became the blueprint the industry would later call hip-hop soul. A year later, Combs remixed it with a guest verse from a rising, then-unknown rapper named the Notorious B.I.G., helping put Biggie on the map before Ready to Die even existed. One teenage operator turned singer, one unproven producer, one sample almost erased, and hip-hop soul was born. Number 5. Usher, Confessions Part 1. In 2004, Usher released a song so specific, so raw, that the entire country was convinced they were listening to his real breakup with TLC's Chilli. A man confessing on record that he'd gotten another woman pregnant while in a relationship. Usher and Chilli split right around the album's release, and the timing made the theory feel undeniable. But producer Jermaine Dupri finally confirmed the twist years later. The confession wasn't Usher's at all. It was his own story, lived out during his own relationship, that he'd handed to Usher to sing. Chilli herself has said repeatedly that she was in the studio with Usher the entire time it was recorded, and that the breakup simply happened to land at the same moment the album dropped. None of that stopped Confessions Part 2 from becoming a cultural phenomenon anyway. The Confessions album sold over 10 million copies, got certified diamond, and became the second best-selling album of the entire 2000s decade, built almost entirely on the public believing a lie that neither Usher nor Dupri ever fully corrected in real time. The whole world thought it caught a superstar red-handed, and really, it just caught one incredible producer telling his secret through somebody else's voice. Number 4. Beyonce, featuring Jay-Z, Crazy in Love. In 2003, producer Rich Harrison sat on a killer horn sample from a 1970 Chai Lights deep cut for years, refusing to shop it to just anyone, because he knew it was too special to waste. When he finally played it for a 21-year-old Beyonce going solo after Destiny's Child, she was skeptical. Nobody used big horn riffs like that anymore. She gave him 2 hours to prove it could be a song. He used every minute. Beyonce stepped out, came back, and Harrison had written the verses and hook. The song's title came from something Beyonce blurted in the room about her own messy hair and mismatched outfit that day. "I'm looking so crazy right now," and Harrison instantly turned it into the chorus. The final piece arrived almost by accident. Her boyfriend at the time, Jay-Z, came to the studio around 3 in the morning and improvised his entire rap verse in about 10 minutes flat. Crazy in Love spent 8 weeks at number 1, won 2 Grammys, and is still widely credited as the single moment Beyonce went from girl group member to global solo icon. A held-back sample, a bad hair day, and a 3 a.m. verse. That's the real anatomy of a Beyonce classic. Number 3. Prince, When Doves Cry. In March of 1984, director Albert Magnoli asked Prince for one more song to finish the Purple Rain soundtrack, something for the scene where his character rides away after losing his girlfriend. Prince wrote the entire thing that same night, then walked into Sunset Sound the next day and played every single instrument himself. Drums, guitar, synths, vocals, no band required. But the song wasn't finished. It was overproduced, and it bothered him. Late in the mixing session, Prince told singer Jill Jones he had an instinct to strip the track down further, even suggesting he'd pull the bass line out completely. Jones simply told him, "Why don't you have it your way?" So he did. He muted the bass entirely, leaving the song with almost nothing holding down the low end, an unheard of move for a pop single at the time. Warner Brothers executives questioned the decision. Prince didn't care. When Doves Cry became his very first #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100, held that spot for 5 weeks straight, and ended 1984 as the best-selling single in America, built on a bass line that, officially, doesn't exist. He removed the one element every hit song is supposed to need, and it became the biggest song of his career. Number 2. Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. Michael Jackson always insisted there was no single, real Billie Jean. that the song was a composite of the groupies who'd hounded the Jackson 5 since he was a child, girls who'd claimed paternity against whichever brother they could get near. But his biographer later revealed something darker. In 1981, Jackson began receiving letters from a specific woman claiming he'd fathered her twin, someone he had never even met. The letters escalated for months, and eventually, a package arrived at his home containing her photograph, a gun, and instructions for a murder-suicide. Jackson rarely spoke about it directly. Writing Billie Jean instead became his way of processing the fear without ever naming her. He wrote the song obsessively, so consumed by the melody that he once didn't notice his own car had caught fire on the freeway until a passerby flagged him down. Producer Quincy Jones actually disliked the demo and wanted to cut Jackson's now legendary 29-second intro entirely. Jackson refused, saying it made him want to dance, and Jones gave in. Billie Jean spent 7 weeks at #1, won 2 Grammys, and life imitated art in the darkest way. When other real women later filed public paternity claims against Jackson himself, one legally renaming herself Billie Jean Jackson and pursuing him for over 2 decades. A song born from real fear became so iconic that it created its own real-life stalkers. Number 1, Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. In 1973, a young Dolly Parton sat down and wrote a farewell, not to a lover, but to her mentor, Porter Wagoner, the man she was professionally splitting from after 7 years. Wagoner produced her recording of it himself, calling it the best thing she'd ever written, and it hit #1 on the country charts twice across 2 different decades. Then came the offer that could have changed everything. Elvis Presley wanted to record it, and Parton was ready to say yes, until his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, demanded half the publishing rights as his standard price. Parton refused to give up her copyright, even though it broke her heart to turn Elvis down. Decades later, she joked that the decision made me enough money to buy Graceland. That's because in 1992, Kevin Costner suggested Whitney Houston cover the song for his film The Bodyguard, and it was Costner's idea to open it with Houston singing completely a cappella. Dolly Parton heard it for the first time on her car radio and had to pull over at a Walgreens parking lot, unable to drive from the shock of what her little sad song had become. Houston's version spent 14 weeks at #1, sold over 20 million copies worldwide, and remains the best-selling single ever released by a woman, a farewell letter to a country music mentor that somehow became the biggest R&B ballad in history. And that's the countdown. 10 songs, 10 legends, and every single story is completely, verifiably real. If you learned something today, hit subscribe, drop a comment with the artist we should cover next, and I'll see you on the next episode of R&B Groove Lore.